Power back up, because if the sequencer stops in the middle of a run, you're going to lose all your data. So you have to make sure you have power the whole time. And it's in here, in this room, protected from the environment. And here we are, the sequencing machine, that molecular sieve. Now the sieve bit is actually a chemical matrix that's inside of this tiny little tube, less than 1 millimeter in diameter inside. This is what the DNA is going to be forced into via an electrical charge from one end of the sieve to the other. We've got the data from hundreds of samples on the computer here, and now my job for the rest of the day, and then maybe into tomorrow, is to go through each one of these sequences looking for the tiny difference that distinguishes the coastal marker, the thing that leads us to Australia. So it's going to take quite a while, a bit tedious. Sometimes I wish I'd done something other than science.
If the marker's here, it'll give itself away as a tiny spelling mistake in just one of the 4 letters that spell out the story of our past. ACGT. I'm searching for just one accidental change in a sequence that's 6 billion long. From C to T. Is that it? Yes. A misprint of just one letter, but just enough, hopefully, to change history.
I've got some really exciting news.
Oh, good.
Let's take a look at it. I'll show you.
Yeah.
If you look at this particular position, see that change
Yes.
from C to T?
T, yes.
That's the marker.
We've done it. This tiny spelling mistake occurred around 2,000 generations ago. It proves that our African ancestors did pass through here on their way to Australia. In the end, one man from a small village west of Madurai had the answer. It had been passed down to him from the very first humans to set foot in India. And here he is. One microscopic change rewrites the history of an entire continent. And that feels pretty awesome.
Fantastic. We should really celebrate.
In this case, the genetics is really leading the way because there is no archaeological evidence for a human presence in India until 30 or 35,000 years ago. It's amazing for me to think that as I look out on the subcontinent of India, that people are carrying this signpost in their DNA.
From Africa to Australia, and now, for the first time, the missing link we've found in India. The genetic evidence of modern man's first coastal migration to Australia. Most of the route would have been pretty easy, requiring the same beachcombing survival skills learned in Africa. But there was one final obstacle. Even at the height of the Ice Age, the coastline didn't quite reach to Australia. There were still 150 miles of open ocean. Whether by accident or by design, they made it. A pivotal moment in our history. The quantum leap in our thinking strikes again. Modern man's ability to imagine a world beyond his horizons had taken him to the other side of the world. So where next? The genetic markers show that one branch from the Middle East made its way swiftly into India. This small group, traveling down into India from the north, was so successful that their numbers quickly multiplied. they soon swamped nearly all traces of the previous coastal migration. A second wave headed for China. Here, bounded by sea and mountains, they remained in isolation, developing a distinctive appearance. They were also to become the largest nation on Earth. But the genetics reveal more.
It appears that East Asia was settled by two waves of migration, one going to the north and one going to the south of these mountain ranges, a bit like an ancient genetic pincher movement, still visible in the blood of the people living there today.
These were massive undertakings. In the virtual blink of an eye, mankind had reached as far afield as India and China.
However, there is something that could settle this debate of where the Chinese come from once and for all. I'm meeting Professor Jin Li, one of China's leading geneticists. Recently, he led a project that set out to prove that the Chinese evolved independently from everyone else, from Homo erectus, here in China.
Before the project started, I was hoping that I could identify or could be able to find evidence that support independent origin of Chinese in China, because I'm a Chinese and came from China, and through the education process, I always believed that there's something special about Chinese.
He singled out a male genetic marker which only appeared about 80,000 years ago in Africa. So any man who carries that marker must have recent African ancestors and can't be descended from the more ancient Asian Homo erectus. Jin took DNA from over 160 ethnic groups around East Asia. Over 12,000 samples. And so, what did you find?
We did not see even one single individual that could be considered as the descendant of the Homo erectus in China. Rather, everybody was a descendant of our ancestors from Africa.
The result couldn't have been any clearer. And how did that make you feel as a Chinese person?
After I saw the evidences that we generate in my laboratory, I think we should all be happy with that, because after all, modern humans from different part of the world are not so different from each other, and we are very close relatives.
That's great, thank you.